one of our key focus now is on behavior change communication, because that's emerging as a very, very important area in improving nutrition knowledge and practices. So our focus increasingly is working with vulnerable communities like tribals. How do you, improve community ownership of nutrition? How do you improve accountability at all levels?
Today we have with us Ms. Neha Sehgal, Associate Director of IPE Global. Ms. Sehgal's 13 years of experience span across influencing policy in agriculture and nutrition, designing social accountability models, and leading multidisciplinary teams. An avid campaign strategist and a strategic engagement enthusiast, she has worked extensively in Orissa, co-designed the Orissa Nutrition Action Plan with the government, and has facilitated government working committees on nutrition. She's leading a social accountability program in Orissa to improve access of nutrition by tribal women. She's worked on programs funded by BMGF, CIFF, and USAID. Given her current role and expertise, she's enrolled with the Harvard Kennedy School in a public leadership program. Ms. Sehgal, wonderful to have you here with us today.
Thank you so much.
So please walk us through a little bit about your professional background and how you got started.
Sure. So I've not had a very linear professional journey, because I've always been sort of driven by things that excite me at that point of time and really move me. So I'm actually a trained environmentalist, because I did my bachelor's in environmental science, and then I went on to specialize in marine science, where I studied in New Zealand. I was always, and then for the next 4 to 5 years, I worked in the area of marine conservation till I moved back to India, where I worked in the area of agriculture. And while I was working in the field of sustainable agriculture, I came to realize that it's equally important to work with communities who are sort of associated, whose lives are intertwined with the environment. It's as important to work with them and understand their narratives and their challenges and their struggles, which is why my sort of lens of looking at things, my perspective slightly changed, and from looking at the farming community, or whether it's the fishing community, that their livelihoods are sort of linked to the environment being really healthy. I started also moving into the health and the welfare of these communities, and this is where nutrition was something that sort of came up very naturally for me, and especially the nutrition and health of women, because it is the women in these communities who mostly whose livelihood is more dependent on the environment than the men, whether it's forest conservation or whether it's in the fishing communities. And that's why when I started working with APPI, I was working with 2 portfolios. One was governance and the other one was nutrition in Orissa. And during that time, while I was meeting a lot of experts as well as civil society leaders who've worked in those fields, is where my initial understanding and sort of my interest in working on health and nutrition grew some more, and especially nutrition of most marginalized communities. And while at APPI, which was a grant-making organization, I was mostly focusing on strategy and designing. I wanted to get my hands dirty and actually start implementing, which is where I joined IP Global, where now I'm involved in implementing projects to improve nutrition of women and children across the country. So yes, that's my professional journey. As I mentioned earlier, not very linear at all, but yes.
That's quite a diverse background, and one of the first that I've come across like this. But yeah, that's wonderful. Now talking about your time at IP Global, let's talk a little bit about the portfolio when it comes to health, nutrition, and WASH. So tell us a little bit about few key projects that IP Global is working on in these areas.
Sure. So IP Global, as an organization, health, nutrition, and WASH is one of the key sector focus for IP Global, which we've been working for several years on, and we've also sort of evolved in the way we implement based on the geography, the context, and the learnings that are coming in from externally. So whether it is working with the system to strengthen their capacity to deliver health and nutrition services to the poor and most disadvantaged, that's been our focus. We also work with communities on demand generation. One of our key focus now is on behavior change communication, because that's emerging as a very, very important area in improving nutrition knowledge and practices. We also, we sort of, the idea behind all our work, as I mentioned, was on ensuring that nutrition services and health services reach the last mile. And some of the projects, just a few, if I could talk about, one of our flagship programs of our health team is Project Vriddhi, which is to strengthen the implementation of RMNCH plus A across 15 states in India, specifically in the poor geographies, working on building capacities, and generally strengthening the system to be able to deliver for the mother and child. We have some nutrition projects in Rajasthan, Jharkhand, and Orissa. From a focus of reducing the prevalence of low birth weight and wasting by improving maternal and child diets, especially during the 1,000 days, where mothers, pregnant and lactating women, as well as children have access to a locally rich, diverse diet is a key component, and is one of our largest nutrition programs. And behavior change communication is very critical in that particular program for improving maternal nutrition. And also, when we work in a state like Rajasthan, how do you sort of, work with the gender dynamics where a woman is always eating last? So how does the entire family, as well as mother-in-laws, and changing those norms so that, women are not always the last one to eat, or they are, and they also have access to a rich diet. So this is just to give, just a gist of the kind of work that we're doing in nutrition across India.
Right. That's great to know. Now talking about IP Global's partnership with Impact for Nutrition so far. So walk us through why IP Global decided to be a part of Impact for Nutrition, and how have you engaged with the platform thus far, and how do you see yourself engaging with the platform in the future?
Yeah. So I think we've been, over the last 2 years, I would say we've been engaging with Impact for Nutrition. And I think one of the key things about, improving nutrition, or something that the Poshan Abhiyan also promotes, is about solidarity and collaboration. And we feel that Impact for Nutrition as a platform provides exactly that. I think one of the key unique features, if I were to say about this platform, is the engagement of private sector partners, which, the kind of thorough engagement that the platform has provided gives an opportunity for the private sector to sort of, learn from each other on the kind of investments that they are making on nutrition.
That's wonderful to hear, and we look forward to a fruitful partnership with IP Global in the future. Now talking about behavior change communication, because you said that is a big focus area of your programs, and that is also quickly emerging as one of the most effective ways when it comes to disseminating nutrition information and best practices. So since you work closely in the field, what has been the response to your initiatives that specifically target behavior change communication, especially with populations like pregnant mothers and tribal women? What has been the response in the field?
Behaviors don't change overnight. They take a lot of time, and whatever you're designing has to be very, very contextual to the state, to the district, to the block even. And I think, so if I were to tell you, if I were to just give you examples of 2 different states that we worked in. So a state like Rajasthan, our focus has been on men in the households taking equal responsibility on the issue of nutrition. And our behavior change messaging initiatives, everything has been focused on that, because one of our key learnings from the field were, before we even began to design anything, was that one is, of course, the huge inequality between men and women, but the fact that unless men don't start taking responsibility, the needle will not move as fast as it's meant to. And it cannot just be a woman's responsibility. The entire community, the entire household needs to be sensitized on that. So whether it's improving a woman's nutrition or a child's nutrition, introducing the right kind of complementary feeding at the right time, the right kind of meal frequency, it does require an entire household to take responsibility of that. And that's been the focus of the behavior change campaign, which we're hoping also shift some social norms that would then enable to sort of, improve maternal and child nutrition. Whereas in a state like Orissa, when we were working with tribal communities, the dynamics are a little bit more different. We took an approach which was more around accountability, where it was about empowering an entire community, men and women, to sort of know what they are, to sort of know what are the various services that what the women and children are entitled to, and sort of demand for it. So our behavior change communication was of a very, very different nature. And we looked at behavior change not just for women and men in the community, but we started looking at what behavior change would look like for a frontline worker if she has to be motivated enough to sort of ensure that a tribal woman and child actually get their nutrition services. What does behavior change look like for a local MLA or an MP or even a district collector? So the focus was very, very different, and it was a different kind of behavior change intervention, where we were looking at not just a community, but we went beyond to the administrative as well as political leadership, because we felt that it required behavior change at all levels in order for this particular marginalized community to get the services that they weren't getting for some time.
Right. I think the challenge with behavior change communication is much larger, because you're dealing with so many social norms and stereotypes, yes, and as well as dealing with so many different stakeholders. But with that being said, it has a more sustainable and durable impact if the entire community kind of understands why nutrition needs to be a priority.
Right.
Now, owing to the COVID-19 situation, we are having more and more conversations about how important health and nutrition are, right? So what are some ways that corporates can kind of engage in making nutrition a priority, especially at a time like this?
Yeah. No, I think nutrition was always important, but during the pandemic, I think it's sort of brought to light the importance. One is because the progress that we've made on nutrition, there is a huge risk that we could lose all of that, with studies coming out where there could be an increase in wasting levels, child and maternal mortality. But also the fact that nutrition is important if we have to build resilience to a pandemic like the COVID. And we know that it seems like we're going to have to live with it for some time, right? So to me, I think there are, I'd like to first talk about some of the things that I feel are really, really important at this point of time. Like COVID has impacted everyone in a different way, very much like malnutrition, where there are some communities that are more malnourished than others. So there is a huge inequity. I think it's really important for us to prioritize this nutrition inequity during this time of COVID and focus on those populations that are more malnourished than others. Whereas, for example, your scheduled tribes, the tribal populations in the country. Right. I also feel that looking at convergence, right? How do different, whether it's health and WCD or it's health, the PRI department, WCD department, how do the services of these departments converge at the ground so that every mother and child can get the services under the 1,000 days that they are meant to? And I feel that in order for this convergence to happen, there is a huge need to start talking about accountability, whether it's accountability between the service provider and the beneficiary, the service provider and their supervisor, and right upward, right up to the department. There has to be that accountability right at the highest level in order for various services, because nutrition is just not, why the WCD department. There are services under a lot of departments that are very important if we want to see the improvement in nutrition. So therefore, accountability as a concept becomes very, very important if we want to see that kind of convergence on the ground. So I would say that, these are some of the, at least the top priorities that I think when one should start looking at when we talk about nutrition, and also start, thinking about, especially during this time, a lot of the, frontline workers, the frontline staff, their priorities have been different because, with the pandemic, they've all been asked to sort of, the focus has been different. Also, whether it's in a lot of states, the not open. So there are these things that I feel we need to start fixing, right? Which is quite immediately. Whether it is because there are certain systems, nutrition service delivery systems that have been impacted because of COVID. There have been frontline staff whose priorities have shifted. They're already very overworked. So that motivation, that needs to be built, that needs to be generated once again. So I see a huge role for the private sector, for CSR or corporates, to really start thinking about some of these things in their own geographies, with their own populations that they work in. How do they start fixing these broken systems?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, because especially at a time like this, we have so much existing infrastructure in the country to support health and nutrition, which has been kind of come to a halt because of COVID. And I think CSR foundations in the private sector in general can kind of really help and come in to augment existing government efforts as well. And we're also wanting to take nutrition to a much higher level within. Yes, we want corporates to focus on nutrition in and around their areas and their communities, but to also focus on nutrition within their own businesses. And that's where our agenda of, workplace nutrition really comes into practice. Nice.
Yeah.
With that, ma'am, we would like to end our interview today. Thank you so much for being a part of this. It was great to hear your insights on the matter and get some really good actionable points that we can think about and, issues that we can pursue in the future. So thank you, ma'am, and we look forward to connecting with you.
Thank you so much.